So tonight I am working on the Cayenne. I've got to replace an axle because earlier when it was down for a month and a half I replaced the OEMs with GKN axles. The driver's side went bad, so I replaced it with the OEM again that I had rebuilt by a CV axle repair shop. And the GKN still exists on the passenger side, so I'm going to swap that out for an actual new OEM axle. Thanks to Porsche of Oklahoma City for that. And I think I can do it pretty quickly. So here I've got two jacks, the impact took the wheel off, the brand new axle with the sticker still on it, which is cool, and whatever other tools she is letting me use. So the first thing to do is to jack the car. I usually just put the jack right under the skid plate, probably about centered. This should get the car pretty high off the ground. And also you're going to notice I never actually painted my skid plate, so it's pretty rusty. Honestly, it won't affect anything. And might even look cool. So get the wheels off the ground. So wheels are off the ground pretty high. Make sure the jack's real tight. Then I'm going to impact the wheel off. Pull this 100-pound behemoth off of here with the 35s. Not a light combo. Now that we've got that out of the way, there's a few bolts we're going to loosen / take off. So this upper control arm bolt is going to be one of them. Some of the powder coat's coming off the Euro's arms. It's unfortunate. Okay, so this top bolt, then the bottom strut bolt. This should be able to come out, and then the axle bolts should be it. Well, I guess and this too. So this is going to have to be pushed out or pressed out. Probably just going to have to beat it out. But that shouldn't be a big deal. So I messed up a little bit. I removed this without actually recording. But what you want to do is use two 22mm wrenches to loosen these two bolts, or the nut on the bolt. And then you're basically going to take the upper control arm out of the spindle, raise that up out of the way, and now your spindle is going to move freely. What you want to do is try and remove this, the axle nut. This is a 1 1/4 socket. And fortunately this is able to pull it off enough. And I'm going to keep it on there so I can actually beat it off or hit it in, so it won't actually be a concern. You want to leave the nut on. I learned this the hard way. You want to leave the nut on when hitting the axle in, otherwise you can damage the threads of the axle end, which you may need if you plan to rebuild your axles. So don't be me. Hit this in while the nut is still on, because it gives it more surface area and also keeps the threads intact. So I'm going to use this 2.5-pound sledge to see if that is able to do anything. And it seems like that actually worked. So I'll impact this off some more. Looks like it's coming out pretty easy. Take this brake line off of here. Now I'm actually able to get it all the way out of the way. So all I should have to do is take off the sway bar bolts, or just the bottom bolt between the link and the sway bar, the bottom strut bolt, and the 6 bolts holding the axle in, and then the axle should be able to pull out when this droops all the way down. I may have to release this bolt back here holding the bracket on for yeah, this is the brake line. This is the ABS sensor. So I may have to remove this bracket so I can slide just that much further down. So in removing the sway bar link, you're going to want to have two 18mm wrenches. Forgot which way this one goes. There we go. That is loosening. Get this bolt off of here. Okay, so it looks like the bolt is actually going to thread itself out. So that's cool. I guess there's too much pressure on the sway bar from everything sagging. So it might help to use a jack right underneath the lower control arm. There we go, the nut is off. We're going to put that under the chair. Now as soon as this gets off the sway bar, it should drop a little more even. Come on. Is it just going to thread all the way out? Oh, there we go. So finally I can pull the bolt out. The threads are still okay on that. So now with the lower control arm jacked up, it gives me a better angle to reach all of the bolts around the axle. So sit here, remove them one by one, or you could actually rotate them too. So there's one bolt. So now that I've got all of the axle bolts out using this M10 triple square socket, so now I just need to remove the bottom strut bolt, and I should be able to do that with two 21mm wrenches. So should be loosened. It's gonna be hard. I might have to use an impact actually. I think that's gonna be the best way. So I've got a 21mm on the impact on the back side of this. There we go. Now the trouble is going to be actually pulling this bolt out. So I'm going to try and lift this up to get some leverage, and then you're going to want to use something to tap it through on the other side. So I've got a punch and the 2.5-pound sledge, and I'm just going to hit the bolt through. Just be careful and watch your fingers. And then also be aware it is possible to bend the fork arms and also ruin the threads on the bolt. So we're going to remove the jack. That should let the arm droop a bit more. We can actually also pull it down. So it seems the wisest decision is to remove the brake line also. For removing the bolt on the back side of this, you're going to want to use a T30. Pull this off, and then that'll give you some extra droop. Okay, some extra droop there. Just going to put that piece to the side. Now I can definitely get the axle out of there. This is a pain in the ass. There we go. Finally. So now you just want to kind of bring this down and shove it out this side. of the fork if you can. Get it out and underneath, and the axle is free. So now the OEM goes back in. The reason that I'm even replacing this in the first place is because I had popping at full droop and I was worried off-road. So I don't want that to be the case. I don't want to have to worry about my axle giving up on me while I'm on a trip in the near future or anything like that. So we're going to put the OEM back in. Hopefully it does not, pop at full droop, because I've also got some coilovers coming in hopefully soon. And I would hate for that to be the case. So, axle in however you can. Just try not to tear the boots. There we go. And throw there we go. So the axle was much easier to put in than it was to take out. So I'm going to do my best now to get the lower control arm bolt back in. Let's see if that is possible. Looks like I need to lower it a hair. There we go. This should slide in. Now that back side is going to be the trouble. Try and screw it in with a little with the impact. And it looks like that worked. So now that the bottom bolt's in, I'm going to try and get this upper control arm bolt in so that I'll be able to not pull the axle any funky way when I'm putting everything back together. So jack this up. Get that upper control arm bolt in there. Now to get the washer and nut on, and then that should pull it all the way through. Actually, you can leave it hand tight for now. So when I jacked this up and put the upper control arm bolt back in, I actually forgot to put the bracket back here to hold the brake line and the ABS sensor in there. So I'm going to throw that back in real quick and then resume putting the axle bolts together, and everything should work out. So now that we've got everything back together, there is one very important part that you don't want to miss. So you don't want to tighten this bolt down with this like sagging. You want to make sure this is level and the axle is level, or level as possible, and you want to make sure it's going to be at the height that it's going to be driving at. So whatever angle it's going to be driving at, you want to tighten it at that angle. If you tighten it while it's at droop, you can actually tear this bushing in here. So now that I'm done replacing the axle, I'm actually going to continue and remove my sway bars as well. There's an overlanding meetup tomorrow out to an abandoned railroad tunnel. So I just want more articulation, more fun to be had with less sway bars. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, subscribe. Thank you so much.